Banania. Nerds in Paradise. One sunny Saturday, and let's face it, almost all Saturdays are sunny on Banania, unless it's raining, of course. Nigel Nickleby, founder and lead engineer of Digibeat, decided it was time to get to know the island a little better and participate in a little well-needed team building. A short while earlier, after telling Bernie Bernard, Banania's fabled grocer, that they intended to hike through Mount Mungo rainforest, Nigel had elicited some severe warnings. Bernie's younger brother Billy joined in and adding his own dire words to his brother's warnings, telling Nigel that the forest is inhabited by fierce animals and, worst of all, by Jumbies, sinister, hairy half-people who it is said only eat fruit. Well, Nigel assured them that he once lived near Liverpool and had met his share of sinister half-people in his time, so he wasn't particularly worried. Though he wasn't too sure about them eating all that fruit. Anyway, this would be a good opportunity to utilise the military hand signals he'd been teaching his staff. So off drove the team in the rattly old company bus to pay a visit to Mount Mungo's fabled rainforest. Unfortunately, neither Page Paine nor Lily Dobson were really in any mood for physical exertion, nor anything else for that matter, having not slept too much the night before. It was the ever-vigilant Page who heard it first, a quiet, gurgling, snorting, snoring sound coming from somewhere near their room in the Manta Bay Ray Resort, where they lodged with the rest of Digibeat's staff. The problem, though, was that the noise didn't come from the rooms where the guys of the company slept, but from the other side where the kitchen and the storerooms were located. Well, on gradually surfacing from a nice, comfortable sleep, being rudely awakened by Page, who insisted that Lily run back up, as she assailed the snoring snorter, Lily suddenly became very much awake indeed. Though she insisted on not believing the old island's fables, Lily was very much aware of the tales revolving around Manta Ray Bay. Sometime in its murky past there had been a heinous deed done, or so it was rumoured. One of the guests, named only Sam, had mysteriously gone missing in the middle of the night. Though admittedly it was not at all certain that the aforementioned Sam hadn't simply slipped away without paying his bill. The worst part of the story, though, was that Sam had been renowned for his loud snoring, which, it was claimed, would shake the walls and rattle the windows. He became known as Sam the Snorer, which was why foul play was suspected, mainly played by the rest of the guests, who were driven to madness by lack of sleep. Interestingly, Sam the Snorer was only ever heard at high tide, when the water rushes up the beach closer to the resort, which makes people believe that Sam met his demise in the jaws of the hungry ocean. With nerves of steel, or perhaps some kind of tungsten alloy in Page's case, Page and Lily edged their way stealthily towards the kitchen, with the intermittent snoring noise getting progressively louder. So, as silently as pounding hearts would allow, our brave girls gradually homed in on the source of the noise, which even seemed to have a splattering quality to it as they approached the kitchen. For believing that surprise was their best ally, Page burst through the kitchen door, wielding the heavy-duty adjustable wrench she invariably kept in close proximity when she slept. But neither Page nor Lily were sure what they were expecting to meet when confronting the snorer, but neither really expected to meet nothing. But nothing was what they found. No sign of a person, ex-person, even any interesting suggestions of a person in the moonlight which streamed through the windows. Nothing and nobody. The gurgling, snoring, now spattering noises persisted though, and appeared to be emanating from the kitchen sink. Approaching carefully and ready to bludgeon whatever may need a good bludgeoning, they peeped over the edge of the sink to see the smallest modicum of water retreating down the plug hole. Then, with an impressive rush and a gurgle and snorting sound, water spurted out of the plug hole for a moment, then simply slid back down again. Page's unrelenting engineer's brain did a swift analysis, and she peered out of the window at the encroaching waves. Each time a wave came rolling up the beach, water came rushing up the sink's drain pipe. Ha! Sam, the snorer, was unmasked. Well, both girls sank to the floor, emotionally exhausted, and burst into fits of laughter. So loud, in fact, that a new myth was born, of a manic, two-headed woman who laughed hysterically as she haunted the place after she'd exorcised Sam the snorer, who was suddenly and mysteriously silenced with the help of a heavy-duty wrench and a little appropriate plumbing. So the next morning found them hacking their way fearlessly along a narrow, heavily overgrown path, with Page following up at the rear of the column, completely cured of any superstition regarding Jumbies or Mumbies or any kind of sleaze. All she wanted to do was to curl up and sleep in the sunshine, but here she was, in the middle of the bush, on some pathetic team-building exercise. So she used the opportunity to get her shiny new but cheap and Chinese digital tablet working. In front of her, Fritz van Dam was telling an interminably long story about a bug he'd discovered in Python, the programming language of course, not the reptile, to the sleepy and long-suffering, that is, totally oblivious, Page Paine, who was stumbling along behind him, jabbing and complaining at her recalcitrant tablet. Then, with a sudden swoosh of undergrowth, Page Paine simply disappeared into the vegetation. Fritz, though, didn't notice a thing, and just kept on walking and complaining about his beastly bug. Well, unfortunately, Nigel had been making all kinds of silly gestures since they first started their hike, waving his arms about and sticking fingers in the air. One time he attempted to let everybody know how far they'd walked by holding one foot and hopping on the other. It took two of the team to pull him out of the shrubbery into which he'd fallen and get him back on his feet again. Oh, it had seemed so much easier to Nigel when his dad had taught him all these tactical signals in the comparative safety of their back garden. So nobody was paying much attention when Nigel raised a hand with his thumb sticking out and stopped dead. The sudden stop sent everybody barrelling into each other with arms and legs flailing, and Nigel desperately jabbing his one hand with his finger to indicate a map check of all things. Well, as they attempted to untangle themselves, telling Nigel politely how useful they thought his dad's hand signals were, there was a loud crash from behind them. Turning, they saw Page emerging, beating her way back onto the path through the undergrowth. Her hair was horribly tangled, but otherwise she was quite unharmed, and breathlessly she told them of being abducted by small, primitive people covered in long hair, and even smellier than Larry Lemming, their electronics guy. Well, everybody made suitable, sympathetic noises, though it must be said that they perhaps pitied whomever or whatever had been unfortunate enough to attempt to attack Page Paine, undoubtedly the most ferocious customer service engineer, well, anywhere really. Then Page realised that her cheap Chinese tablet was gone. Stolen. Them nasty thieving little horrors. I'll teach them to pinch me tablet, yelled Page as she attempted to fight her way back into the bush in pursuit of her purloined property. Then, thwack! Fritz got hit on the back of the head by Page's tablet. Seeing this, Page swiped up the tablet from the floor and kind of shrugged, really. So, as everything seemed to have reverted to something approaching normality, Nigel gave the appropriate signal and they all proceeded to trudge off once more down the jungle path. Suddenly, though, Page stopped and with a gasp exclaimed that her tablet was working. "Oh, well, that's all right then. Little beggars, so they are, to be sure," said Connor O'Connor, co-founder and marketing manager. No, you don't understand. Perfectly. Me nasty little tablet is working perfectly." Nobody seemed particularly interested until she explained that the stupid thing hadn't worked properly since she got it, and 2 of the apps were complete rubbish. But now they were all working, really working very well indeed. For a moment there was silence, as everybody exchanged quizzical glances, and brain cells clicked and clunked, or whatever brain cells do. Suddenly, though, the light dawned on them all. And as a man or woman, they all charged back up the path to try to find the hole in the undergrowth through which the Jumbies had abducted Page. "Here, Jumbies! Good Jumbies! Here, Jumbies! Nice Jumbies! Good Jumbies! Come on, Jumbies! Do you do Python, Jumbies? Hey, do you do Python?" That was Banania. Please subscribe via Apple Podcasts or your favourite podcast provider. And for more information, visit bananiapodcast.com.